I was going to a ballet class.
I was coming back in my car and the phone rang.
I checked my phone and there was a 312 number.
I just answered the phone. I was like, whose number is this?
I usually don't pick up for strange numbers.
And I was like, hello? And they were like, hello.
They're like, hey, this is such for 3 Arts. You got a minute? I'm like, yeah, I got a minute.
She asked me if I was sitting down, and I was like, yes, I am sitting down.
Esther identified herself, and then she said she was from 3 Arts. And I'm like,
You're the recipient of the 2021 3 Arts Award. Okay.
Hey, you won the 3 Arts Award.
And frankly, I nearly peed my pants because I was so excited.
Not what I was expecting, like, at all.
I was shocked, surprised, ecstatic.
Really surprising. I was kind of in shock.
You kind of want to scream, and I think what I really said is, can I call my mother?
Then I said, what the? And I didn't say the F word because I was like, had my granny and my mama in my head. I was like, oh, don't say that word. And that was the conversation. And then I got back to work.
When I got that nomination, I wasn't gonna do it.
I was at one of the lowest points that I've been at.
I was actually in a little bit of a funk.
And even though I know, reapply, I was really burned out. But I did my application this year.
I shall not give up, but I'm grateful. It was just a perfect counterbalance from what I was going through at that moment.
May you be aware of your purpose, be able to carry it through.
Charles Poppin' Chuck Bledsoe, dancer and visual artist. I create stories with my body. I create illusions with my form. It's physical poetry. What it's called popping, tensing your muscles to the beat of the music, is more about taking you someplace creatively. Like, you're gonna see that my body can do things you never thought the human body could do. Locking, which has a lot to do with extending your arms and legs in certain grooves, kind of mixed in with acrobatics. You have to have character to do the dance. You can't just do it with a blank look on your face or an angry look. It's a happy dance. And we try to bring the audience into what we're doing. That's what the dance is about, sharing our energy and bringing people into that happy place. That's what locking is about. I've been doing this a long time. I've been teaching, I've been instructing, I've been performing. It takes thousands of hours to learn how to do these movements, so it is a discipline. I mainly want kids to see it because if they see their teacher inspired by dance, now give them hope to be like, well, if he can do a show, I can do a show. It's one thing to say, oh, you can dance real good. Oh, you're cool. And it's another thing for somebody to say, here's something that can help you to develop what you have in your mind, your vision. I like that.
Lillian Brown, director. My primary job is to build worlds that you come and experience for a short time live.
I know it's the lights. Anyway.
So I'm from Chicago. I'm from the South Side. I grew up in, classical ballet, all of that. Then got into musical theater in college, and dance was sort of my ticket in. I sort of learned to sing on the way, and then had to learn to act on the way as well. And as a Black woman focused on musical theater in the 90s, well, there was nothing. And yet I worked because I was always the only Black person in the show. And then once in a while, there'd be something that needed a couple of Black people. That had me kind of sitting in the back going like, why? Eventually, I was like, well, what are you going to do about it, Brown? So that's how I started directing. As for what I'm bringing, my perspective is, I love musicals, but I love comedy, but also I am a woman and I am Black. So all of these things combine in a really me kind of way. If there's a show where a Black lady kind of wiles out or does something super violent or crazy and she sings about it, I've probably done it. But it's my job to interpret the work. I don't seek to change it in any way. It's about how do we make it live? How do we make it sing? How do we put it in a physical space in the world so that people can see what's in here? That's the exciting part. And that is how I feel witnessed in the world.
Caitlin Edwards, creator, violinist, musician, composer. I believe that music feeds the soul, is a spiritual experience, and that's what the music I play, does for me. I'm a classically trained violinist. I was brought up in the gospel tradition and also brought up around jazz musicians. I've always sought to incorporate that with my classical training. I create my own music that combines the music that, makes me whole. I grew with the violin. It almost feels like it's a part of my body. Feeling the vibrations of the instrument, I feel like I can really sing and express all the emotions when I play, and I have the creative freedom to do so. I'm also trying to bring about some sort of healing. The song could be, emoting anger, but through that anger, there's still a force of healing that happens when you listen to music. And ultimately, when my listeners, when they listen, I want them to feel the passion that's coming from me. And whatever energy that's driving me to perform, I want them to feel that and take that away.
Andres L. Hernandez, artist, designer, and educator. I call myself an artist, designer, and educator because I do think those three bases of working are really critical to my practice. I didn't go to school for art, went to school for architecture, which is, closely aligned but not the same. Coming out of architecture school, I didn't really consider myself an artist. I was doing other types of work, helping communities. Even though I wasn't working in a firm anymore as an architect, I still have been very interested in space and the politics of space, particularly in this city. Ultimately, my pathway after undergrad actually sort of aligned. It's the work that I was doing as a community sort of advocate, a youth advocate, and then this sort of spatial impulse around the urban environment. So having said all of that, my work is interdisciplinary in nature, something from more of a kind of traditional sculpture, drawings, performances, and it could also be through writing. It's about what medium makes sense in this moment for this particular question you may have around the subject. Do I have the sort of autonomy and space in terms of my inquiry to find a creative product to address these issues or raise these questions? What I'm designing is provisional. What I mean by that, it's never a finished product. It's more of a suggestion. It's about to say something. It's loose enough where people can enter into it, enter with it. What I'm designing is interactive. It's meant to be sat on with others as to create a forum, right? To create a space for dialogue.
Emily Hooper Lansana, storyteller, community builder. There are stories everywhere, every day, and there are all sorts of ways to find them.
My brother plays the guitar. He's an amazing guitar player. My sister
I'm deeply interested in sharing stories that are empowering. I am particularly interested in stories that celebrate the people of the African diaspora and that celebrate women. As an artist, in terms of my performance, I'm most excited when I can get on stage and tell a story that I think an audience might not otherwise hear, to share something that is empowering and transformative. As a teaching artist, I get excited when I see people open up and feel empowered, and to sort of recognize that the voicing of their experience really matters. So whether that's working with a group of young people and helping them to tell stories in the form of poetry, elders and helping them to reflect back on experiences from their childhood, I am excited about how I can help people to say the story out loud and then say the story out loud again in a way that it might be most well received by an audience, but that might also help the person who's speaking feel stronger in the way that they say it.
Andres Lemus-Spant, teaching artist. I really enjoy working with young people. I think teaching is the way I enjoy doing that because I enjoy doing that in sort of a playful way. And I feel like putting those two together has felt really good. For me, like art is like the catch-all. It allows me to put anything in there, any sort of playful exploration that we want. No right answer approach is very much what I'm drawn to with art. You have life experiences, you have ideas, you have weird things you're interested in, and art is like the way to try and learn more about those things. It's super sweet to be with a kindergartner who's existing in this system of education that's about behavior and like discipline. And it's about like controlling their bodies and controlling what they do and when they do it. In a lot of ways, like my teaching is giving students permission to just try things. When I'm doing my workshops in public space, because in a completely different way, like public space is policed, I don't have to tell them, don't do that. Like, go ahead and do it, and then you'll realize, well, you probably shouldn't have done that. I see the teaching work I do as a form of mentorship. I do feel like the programs that I've been working with those kids have meant a lot to them. And often it's been the same kids as they've been getting older. I've been working more with them. Having someone to talk to and having someone who is there to like accept you, I think that's super important.
Kat Mahari, artist, Black being. Things first hit me via movement. Whether it's a social critique, an aesthetic inflection, something that really catches my eye about what I am internally dealing with. And I do it from a social, political, aesthetic, liberationist context rooted in Black culture, primarily Black street dance. I'm a movement artist, someone who really researches and tries to experiment, explore the in-between of your internal home, your psyche, your emotions, and the outer environment, structurally, culturally, community, locally, nationally, globally. It's not a back and forth. It's this constant intertwining that I'm like consistently reflecting upon and just being interested by. When I'm in a process, I just let it guide me. It will tell me where I need to grow, what I need to let go of, and it will show me that through my relationship with my collaborators, via my relationship with my own life. If I'm struggling to put food on the table, or if I had a bad day and I'm still dealing with this process, that process is going to show me how it's reflecting in my actual life. So I'm never not delving into it. Honestly, the process will show you what needs to happen, what you've actually learned. It's about learning your lessons. So sometimes we have to learn how to learn a lesson.
Shanta Nurullah, musician and storyteller. Before I go on stage, I pray that we might touch somebody, lift somebody's spirits, that we might give somebody hope. With the music, it's the lifting up. My instrument, my love, is the sitar. I was recruited to go to college. Socially, it was difficult, and it was a real strange experience. So I spent all of sophomore year trying to figure out how to get away from college. I applied for the India program, got accepted. A few months later, I ended up halfway across the world. A week into it, I heard this instrument, and instantly I fell in love. And the love affair has continued. 50 years later, I'm still playing the sitar. People expect a sitarist to play Indian classical music, but I have found how I could use the instrument to play me. It opened up Black music, a perfect way for me to express African American musical forms such as spirituals, the blues, and jazz. You can bend the strings. You can get moans out of it. You can make it tremor. It expresses my heart. It expresses my soul.
David Rhee, theater artist. The idea of being a minority in this business. There's a big placard over your head, and it's making a social and political statement. Early in my career, I had 2 major theater companies, and they said, "We know you're here, we just don't know what to do with you." And I asked them point blank, "Is it because I'm Asian?" And both of them, on separate occasions, said yes. If I'm a bad actor, I can work at that. If I'm a bad dancer, I can work at that. To be told, no, it's because of something that is, you cannot change. I didn't know what to do with that information. So I took a class for playwriting, fell in love with it. All of a sudden, the phenomenon of Hamilton happened. And all of a sudden, those theater companies that were telling me, "We don't know what to do with you," all of a sudden knew what to do with me. And there was a part of me that was thinking, this is great, but what happens when we're no longer a thing? So I said, let's be the people in power. Let's create a theater company where we're telling our stories, changing the narrative, and shattering the false constructs. The bottom line for me is the Asian experience in America. It's rich. I'm looking for everything about our experience in this country. That's not just your normal, we immigrated here, we came from nothing. That needs to be told, but there's so much more than that. So that's the motive behind why I need to tell stories. It's really reclaiming our stories and showing us in a 3-dimensional way.
Derek Woods Morrow, multimedia installation artist and filmmaker. I'm oftentimes connecting like my childhood sense of freedom and being queer and like questions of the South with like wherever I am in the world. It's a lot about trying to sort of connect the threads to my adulthood self. I'm consumed with like the body. My practice also really wants to talk about sex and desire and not just like the topical issues of like Black queer identity. That's really important to consider when like the codified language is like Black queer identity this, Black queer identity that. I'm like, well, like Black people have sex. Like Black people also like can be professors, and they can also like have really thoughtful conversations and like be completely invested in their community. I don't feel like beholden to a medium, but more to like a way of experiencing the world or trying to convey like a message through the work. It can be interviews with Black queer folks. It can be making image lifts and like mono prints. It can be photographs, or it can be thinking about installation and sculpture. I think I also try to foreground dialogue in the work. It's really important that we talk about the work. And so sometimes even the performances are just people talking in circles.
Although I found power in telling people what to do, that shit.
I think at the end of the day, if like I can sleep with myself and I feel like the work feels good in some type of way, like that's a success for me.
I don't really have words to describe how honored I am to receive this award. We live in a country where there is a great deal of inequity.
Until the world completely ends and we have a whole new society that is equitable, you don't have the ability to define phenomena in the world. Once the people get the power, then art itself becomes a different situation.
There are so many places where artists are devalued.
I've been out here for so long. I've been making music in Chicago for over 50 years. I've gotten overlooked a lot more than I've gotten looked at.
This is huge. This is the biggest thing that I've ever been awarded in my life.
I don't win a lot of awards or trophies or get a lot of recognition for what I do.
It just feels like a validation.
I never thought of you recognized for being a teaching artist, right? Like I just didn't think that would ever happen.
What this does is it gives me time to develop the craft again, where I don't have to worry for a certain time. How am I gonna get food on my table?
Finally, somebody noticed me, and I'm just so grateful. And the money's good too.
$30,000 is amazing, like the professional development and the connections, those opportunities really speak to me.
The wealth of resources that 3 Arts provides, the residencies and the funding, and also to be connected with all these amazing creatives and artists. I'm just really excited to be part of this organization, this family.
On your roster of 3 Arts awardees, there are many of them that I see as mentors or people I look up to.
I've been doing it so long, it's like, wow, somebody finally recognizes what I do as something that's honorable and is creative, and they're willing to support my vision.
I imagine that my artistry will be so much more because of having entered this community.
God gave you your life for a purpose. It's those that you came here to do. May you be aware of your purpose, be able to carry it through.